focus has been directed at the various obstacles facing teachers, such as a lack of parent participation, unenthusiastic learners, and generally negative attitudes regarding the schooling environment. The SynEDgy School in Northbrook takes a new approach to finding solutions to these common problems.
SynEDgy Schooling is an approach to education where we're probably asking more questions than knowing the answer. So the questions that we ask are, what kind of environment could we create in a school that will motivate and entice children to participate? Likewise with parents. We ask ourselves, what is the element of relationship building and how does that contribute to effective learning? And we have found that relationships, by working on relationships, so the child starts to feel more confident, self-esteem rises, they feel more engaged, they feel more connected, and hence they're much more motivated to learn. They actually step out of their comfort zone and challenge themselves, and hence the academic learning falls into place in whatever area, whether it's science, maths, academics, sport. And it's not about one person or two people who've got these new ideas, but it's about people who share, who co-construct an environment and thereby participate in something which has the ability then to create something which is more than just the sum of the individual parts. Hence, we include parents, we include children, we include teachers, all people who are interested, have a vested interest in the next generation, in what kind of schooling environment can we create where we will all be learning and learning together.
All teachers try to provide learners with a sound academic knowledge. This ranges from learning the alphabet to mastering Shakespeare. And although teachers share common goals, their results may vary based on different teaching methods they choose to use in their classrooms daily.
A normal day at SynEDgy Schooling, it usually starts with group meeting where the whole class comes together and the kids get to share news or talk about things that are important to them. And then after that, in the classes that I work with, we go into reading and writing workshop, which is a literacy block that lasts for about an hour and a half. And then we spend the afternoon working on numeracy, which is mixed together with science and technology. And then on different days they have COSA, and then they'll also do explorations around nature, environmental science, and then they also do sport. SynEDgy Schooling differs from conventional schools in many different ways. Something that is probably the most prominent is the fact that we don't have a rigid timetable. So instead of having periods, I have literacy blocks and numeracy and science blocks, which allows me to integrate the curriculum. Much more than, say, in a normal school where you have half an hour or hour-long periods set aside for science or geography or English and math and stuff like that. So it's the flexibility to adjust the curriculum so that it can reflect the children's interests and also support their needs. So the type of education that we offer children is focused on bringing children out so that they're really participating in the educational process. So it's not my role as a teacher to tell them what they need to know or to tell them how to think. My role is to facilitate their thinking and to facilitate their learning so that they become great thinkers.
Most parents today don't even think twice about sending their children off to school every day. It is assumed that they are receiving the best possible education and the bulk of the responsibility is placed on the educators. But more and more people are realizing that parents have an equally important role to play.
One of the things that we find most important about SynEDgy Schooling is that we are no longer a child-centered school, that we are recognizing that teachers, parents and children all co-construct a learning environment together. So if we're going to start from that premise, we have to find ways in which we can include parents in our school program as a way to empower them and obviously to create this learning environment where parents can learn as well as children as well as teachers. So for example, we have flexible time slots where parents can come in when they drop their children off and they can actually work with their children. Work not necessarily just about academics but actually about play, because this is a school about relationships. We also emphasize that parents need to be informed as to what is going on. So we have things like daily journals and we have weekly emails where we write to each parent individually just to talk about and inform them what is the content of what we're learning about, but also just something personal about what is going on with their children.
The composing of a daily journal is one of the techniques used at the SynEDgy School. Learners are encouraged to record their daily activities at school, serving as a reminder to themselves and as a guide to parents as to their child's progress.
by the end of the day, the aim is that we have a record of what's happened in our room for the parents to look at before they actually come to the room to pick up the children. During the course of the day, the teacher takes photographs of what has happened during the course of the day and puts those photographs on a template and then writes up. So that is the main aim of the daily journal, is to bring a form of communication for the parents to know what's going on within the classroom. But it's also an opportunity for the children to reflect on their day. Now, obviously with the little ones it's still quite tricky, and at the end of the day, as the teacher, we will sit and look at what we enjoyed, what we didn't enjoy, what we'd like to do more of, and some of that can be put within the daily journal. The daily journal, I think, is really valuable in that those parents are getting a glimpse of what's actually happened during the course of that day. That's a starting point for them to talk about on their way home in the car, and to interact with the teacher in the morning as to what's going on in the classroom. It's valuable for the children when it's used as a reflection of their day. So they're able, what would you like to put in the daily journal? And they say, well, I'd like to put the fact that we really enjoyed doing maths with blocks today. So we use it as a reflexive process. And that's so valuable for the children to reflect and then to move on, because we want to be forward thinking. So we can move with what they're interested in, and they feel that they're being heard and they're owning their education.
As a result of limited resources and overcrowding, many teachers are faced with the challenge of teaching children of various ages and levels of development. SynEDgy Schooling sees this as an opportunity for multi-aged and peer learning experiences whereby younger children learn from older ones.
Multi-aging is about children learning from one another. So you get the older children that can move into the younger children's spaces and teach them. And we find it's very effective because younger children often like to watch older children as well. They'll be working at a given task, and the younger children are wanting to learn about it, but they still know they haven't got the skills. So they'll watch. And that will happen in any environment if you're observing children. In the current day system in the schools with the very large numbers, it's difficult, but you could still include the group teaching aspect where you teach the children at the different levels that they're at. So you have your accelerated group, your middle group that is sort of functioning at the code level of 2 or 3, and then your slightly weaker group that's needing more support. And you would develop different activities for those children so that they don't compete with one another, and sort of highlight the fact that the one's accelerated, the one is weaker, and sort of endorsing the differences, that we celebrate the differences and not draw attention to the weaknesses. I think if you're looking at the overcrowding issue, the issues around space are one that does make it very difficult. But my knowledge of what we're doing is that we're trying to separate groups. So if you have 50, just a scenario, is 25 children could be doing activities outside and 25 inside. But then you've got to keep a proximity for control and supervision. So that would generate maybe employment of teacher assistants who could be in the learnership programs of training to be teachers. And that is facilitated financially by the Workplace Skills Development Fund.
We know all too well about scheduled lesson times and school timetables, with learners racing from one class to the next and educators trying frantically to squeeze in the last bit of information as the bell sounds. SynEDgy School makes use of a time web instead of a timetable in order to create a sense of fluidity to the school day.
The time web is something which is a figurative image of how we can move away from the concept that learning happens in a linear, static process. Learning doesn't necessarily just happen in a slow-moving process, but sometimes happens spontaneously and can happen very quickly and at no defined point in time. So the time web starts to show how different things can interact, whether you've got interactive learning, active learning, how what you do in science and technology comes right back into your numeracy. And the time web, therefore, looks more like a spider's web, which shows how things interlink. So the curriculum actually becomes something which is integrated and not just something which is just compartmentalized into different subjects, which don't initially show how the world itself is an interrelated organism.
SynEDgy Schooling breaks the boundaries of conventional schooling, yet both share a common goal, and although resources may vary between schools, valuable lessons can still be shared. lessons such as the importance of parent involvement and the composition of daily journals. And practicing multi-aging and peer group learning and implementing an emergent curriculum.